Before we start, DLP is an exploration company really focused in southeast BC, looking for SEDEX type zinc, lead, silver deposits, and we have a copper play as well that we put into Plan B. And then we have the porphyry copper moly project in Peru. I'm going to really be focusing on the Sullivan type targets in southeast BC. And if you want to find out a bit more about the rest of them, we can answer that in the question and answers time. DLP was essentially it was built over around Dave Leo Pegan. He's a geologist that probably some of you may know. He's well known in southeastern BC. He's worked over 50 years in the area, has mapped the area, and has considerable knowledge of things in that part of the world. Just a cautionary statement regarding forward-looking comments I may make in this. So we have 76,000 hectares of exploration properties in southeastern BC, focusing on the Sullivan type zinc, lead, silver targets, stratiform, copper, silver, cobalt targets, and as mentioned, the porphyry copper moly project in Peru. The area shown to the south of the diagram in the slide there in the green, that's the Aldridge properties together with the DD and the Moby Dick and Nazoo properties. That's the Sullivan type targets. That's the area I'll be talking a bit more on. So here we have Dave Pegan, Captain Ahab. He's been looking for Moby Dick for over 50 years and dying to find this one. We hope to find both Moby Dick and another elephant in the same area, and that's the area we'll be focusing on. I just want to make mention that you see our property holdings are along a major structure called the Moye Fault Zone, and that's a long-lived structure which is very important in terms of bringing fluids up into the system. And we have some of these northwesters and northerly trending structures as well, and we believe that is this part of the structural complexity in the area that we hope to find the next Sullivan. Just to put into perspective the size and the value of another Sullivan. Sullivan sits in the supergiants in terms of zinc and lead metal content. We're looking up of 15 million tons of those two metals. And when you compare the Sullivan to the Taylor in terms of value per ton, it's pretty good. I mean, we're looking at up of $300 per ton of value there. So that's really the real reason why we focused in this area and why we believe there has to be another Sullivan somewhere, hiding somewhere in that district. Sullivan deposit, just to give you some information, it's 160 million tons. As I mentioned, there are 8 million tons of lead and 7 million tons of zinc with 285 million ounces of silver. So in terms of value terms, it's pretty considerable. It was mined to a depth of just over 680 meters, I believe, and that's the outline of the Sullivan ore body. It was mined for 92 years. So, looking at that in terms of value, we believe there's possibly another one somewhere around in that area. To the left of that slide, we have the Sullivan ore body outlined with a zone of yellow, which is what we call the fragmental rocks associated with the footprint of the Sullivan. And this is pretty important because this extends for over 6 kilometers to the south from the Sullivan ore body. And I remember, keep this slide in mind, and I'll repeat it in the next slide as well, that when you look at the Sullivan footprint over that 6 or 7 kilometers, we see the fragmentals together with smaller deposits like the North Star and the Stemwinder, with tourmaline cores associated with that, and also at the Sullivan ore body. So some of the criteria that we believe is important in terms of recognizing where we are in this basin that we're currently looking at and into the south of Cranbrook is the structural intersection, as I mentioned. vent systems, which are important for the conduit of these zinc, lead, silver ores, these fragmental rocks, which are indicators of active structures and venting in the area in these subbasins that these deposits form in, and the tourmalinite rocks, which are important indicators of boron, degassing, and venting within this subbasin. And of course, the gabbro arch and associated gabbro bodies and sills that we see at the Sullivan, and we're picking up as well within the area that we're currently looking at. So in this slide, I've taken the Sullivan footprint, turn it on its side, and I just want to overlay an MT survey that we did over our area, and just to show you some relationships that I believe are important in terms of our exploration. So this is an MT survey. It's an electromagnetic survey that was done, and we identified 5-kilometer trend of very conductive material situated in certain nodes along that 5-kilometer trend. So what we have on the right-hand side, there is resistivity in ohm meters, and they're pretty. It's pretty resistive in the pretty low resistivity, high conductive material in those pink to mauve colors that we see in along that 5-kilometer trend. So before I progress, there's a hole called Pan 1801 EX to the southwest. That was a hole that was drilled by Teck in 2018, and they stopped short of the Sullivan. They got to 1428 meters and left that hole. That was an option that they had with PJX. Once they'd left, and just 2 years ago, we picked up the ground from PJX. We did another option with PJX. We went back into that hole. We extended the hole another 258 meters, and we hit the Sullivan horizon. There was a lot of smoke in that hole, and I'll explain it in the next slide. But just before we move on, this is the outline of the Sullivan, and I've just overlaid it on these targets that are shown in purple. So we could fit at least another 2 Sullivans along that 5-kilometer trend. And that's the iron core, which we believe is responsible and giving us those conductive anomalies along that trend. And that's characteristic of the Sullivan ore body. So the Pan 1801 hole was drilled to a depth of 1711 meters by us. We re-entered that hole at 1425 and extended that hole. We had excellent alteration, chloride cerussite through that lower section, and we had weak zinc mineralization towards the base. So the survey that we did sort of highlighted some other anomalies that were even stronger than what was found by Teck on the Pan 1801 hole. And I'll just show you a little later, yeah, that the Pan 1801 hole was looked at by Teck based on some other information on holes to the north of our ground and also to the southeast. There's 2 old holes called RSO7 and RSO5 holes that were drilled on the edges. And I believe from the review that was done, they vectored into the area of the Pan 18 area to complete a hole there. But for whatever reason, they stopped short, and I guess lucky for us, we got the ground from PJX and managed to extend the survey across the whole area. So in the DD2102 hole, which is about 1 kilometer to the northeast of the Pan 18 hole, we had a very good intersection of fragmentals. We had 168 meters of fragmentals intersected, and that's the first time that such a thickness of fragmentals has been intersected in this area. We had zinc mineralization at the base of this hole, and I'll just show you where our next plan is to go to the next conductive anomaly further to the northeast, and that's about another 1.2 kilometers to the northeast. That's a section across the Pan 2102 hole, crossing across the DD property into the Moby Dick area. The hole I mentioned, the historic hole RSO 701, is shown in that section. And Sullivan Horizon was just intersected in the lower part of that hole at 1428, I believe, or 1,500 meters there, and did not exit the Sullivan Horizon, I believe, in that zone. So we see the anomaly that is shown in purple that we drilled with 2102. We know there's pyrrhotite in that hole. That's what's giving us that anomaly. We have some gabbro sills through that hole, and we have weak zinc mineralization at the base. So we're pretty confident that the vectoring that we're doing along that northeast trend is hopefully going to give us some success in the next few months. So we've made one small step in 2021, and hopefully we'll have some giant steps to follow in 2022. Where is it hiding? I think that's a question that people have been asking for many years now. We've collated a lot of data with the assistance of Dave Pegan, who has incredible experience in the area. He's probably one of the few geologists who has the full sequence of markers going through the Middle Aldridge towards the Sullivan Horizon that's still available. And we believe we've been poking around the edge of something that could be pretty large and a lookalike to the Sullivan. So I think we've poked the elephant a little bit. Dave is trying his hardest to get to this Moby Dick, so hopefully we'll have some success, as I said, moving through the year. So the structure, we have 80 million shares out. We're trading around about 22 cents right now. We have a strong management team, very small team. Dave Pegan, obviously, the principal in the group. James Tapula and Robin Sudo, who have been really fundamental in putting this all together. And we have a very strong shareholding amongst the insiders, including directors and founders. And we own about 43% of the outstanding shares. So that's really probably all I have time for regarding what we're doing, but I think it's important to note that we have some very interesting copper projects in that same area in southeast BC. These styrofoam-hosted copper-type systems are well known on the other side of the border in the US, in the Montanore and Creek, Spar Lake systems, and really completely unexplored in this part of southeastern BC. We've recently discovered a very interesting zone called the 711 zone. We've claimed an additional 34,000 hectares on the Hungry Creek property, and we hope to be doing further work on that in 2022. This is really an important system, we believe, and as I said, there's been very little information that we can find in the literature regarding that outside of some holes that were drilled by Antofagasta on the eastern limb about three or 4 years ago. So in the Peru, we have the Aurora Porphyry Copper Moly project. That's an advanced project, we believe. It's a company's been incorporated in Peru right now, and we'll start permitting that in December with the hope of drilling that sometime in 2022. There's a lot of information that we don't know about the Aurora, even though it's got 13 holes into it. But we believe most of those holes were short, and only one hole went through the system, and that's shown in that last slide. Thank you very much.